Good afternoon, beautiful people. Just tapping in with you, man. Coming to you live and direct with the second episode of Off the Record, but on my mind. So I want to take this time to kind of address something that has happened currently in the news, in real time, as this second episode, and then kind of share my perspective and my historical thoughts on the matter. So this episode is going to be entitled, "Is Freedom of Speech Really Free?" So first and foremost, I want to send my condolences to Charlie Kirk and his family. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not very familiar with him or his ideologies. I know that he's a conservative voice, conservative activist, and talking head for the conservative Republican Party and all that good stuff. But the reason why I'm deciding that I want to actually weigh in on this one is because it's a concern. As your resident historian, it's a dark day in America, right? And so I'm not saying that in a over embellished, frantic kind of way. I'm saying this because what I don't think people really understand is that there are a lot of social constructs that we build our whole lives. We build the principles, we build our ways in which we view life. We put a lot of stock into some of these different things that have been taught into us, right? We have morals, we have convictions, we have all these things, but they all come from these constructs in the mind. They're not really physical things until they're acted out in the physical world. And so, what really pains me and bothers me today is the fact that a lot of people are just asleep at the wheel. Like, you just don't understand what happens to one can happen to us all. Dr. Martin Luther King used to say, an injury to one person is an injury to us all, right? And that's how it is with freedom of speech. Sure, people can say, hey, you know what, that was a bigger platform. That was a person that was out there in the limelight. That was somebody that was making waves and saying things that for some people really, really excited and ignited their political passions. For other people, they met his words and his thoughts with disdain. That's not the point. The point is not whether or not you agree with the gentleman's politics or his methodology or even what came out of his mouth. The reality is that when we get to a space where someone is assassinated based on their ideas and their messaging and their branding and what they're sharing out to the public, right? That's supposed to be one of our most sacred rights here in the United States of America, is that First Amendment freedom of speech. Now, can I stay out of the same mouth that sometimes when you say something, there are consequences to it? Sure, I can say that. But I still have a difficult time landing on this notion that someone can say something out of their mouth or have an ideology that should result in them being murdered, right? I'm from the school of thought and the cloth that the way that you combat hate is with love. The way that you combat lies is with truth. The way that you combat opinion is with a more concise opinion, right? And so to hear that there's individuals on both sides weighing in, some people that are trying to canonize him, they're trying to exalt him as a martyr, and they're already looking at the political spin on how they can use this to talk about whoever it was that potentially assassinated him, what the agenda was. Then there's these individuals that seem to be very apathetic, that just are very dismissive of this because they didn't buy into his branding or they didn't know him. I'm telling you to your ear and to your face, eye to screen, I don't know a lot about this gentleman. And it's not even for me to know a lot about him. He wasn't on my radar because I'm not really steeped in conservative politics, right? I listen to conservative talk radio. I read the news over on the Fox News side, and I try and get a little bit of both sides as a registered independent voter. But there's nothing that a person can say out of their mouth just as a viewpoint that is worth them losing their lives. And to assassinate somebody, like, assassination is one of the most cowardly things that you can do. And I'll go on record as saying that, right? I get bothered when I hear people say they get death threats for things. I'm like, really? Somebody doesn't like what you said or what you've done or how you're performing in whatever your craft is, and they call you up on the phone and say they're going to kill you? Like, to me, that's bullshit, right? That's always been bullshit. But take that to the next level, and you say somebody cowardly from a distance with a rifle or a scope or whatever it was they used, they go and they shoot somebody and they try to flee, right? I'm not at all pushing hood politics, gangsterism, none of that stuff. But I do feel like if you got a problem with somebody, step up to that person, give them an opportunity to be able to defend themselves, right? So to run up and to shoot somebody or from a distance snipe somebody and kill them because you don't agree with their politics, to me that is like so cowardly. So cowardly. I don't really think there's too many more cowardly kind of things you can do. Like, maybe hit a kid or a baby or something like that. But the thing is that I'm bothered by this because this sets the precedence. We live in a society where people like you and I can get on our phones or on our computers and push play, press record, and we can say whatever it is that's on our mind. So imagine what happens when it gets to the point where people get shot down dead in the street, or people get rolled up on while they're having their little vlogs or whatever out randomly out in the community, and they get shot because they say something that's contrary to what somebody else believes. Now, there are some exceptions, and I will yield to some of those. If somebody's making a threat against somebody else's life, then I think, yeah, there's a call to action there. But let's just keep it in the framework of freedom of speech, right? What really pisses me off is that people that talk about how there should be limits to free speech and how people should watch what they say and people have to be accountable for what they say, but you're actually saying something out of your own mouth. Like, people think that all the rules apply to everybody but them. Right. And then for the people that they say, oh, well, hey, I'm just as liable to be held accountable as you, or I hold myself accountable. I call bullshit on that, too. Right. That's like the word hater. Like, people will say that shouts out to my haters or somebody's a hater, but the way that the term hater is actually rationalized and plays out in real life, all of us hate. If you have a disagreement or a disdain and you don't like something and you say something contrary to that, then that's an act of hating, right? But people are always like, oh, well, everyone else in this whole big melting pot that we call the United States is hating on somebody politically, somebody socially, right? Somebody economically, somebody culturally, but not me. Like, I just think that's such bullshit. And I'm a little bit more animated with this one because as a historian, I teach young people that when you look at how societies set up and how social contracts are created and how there are these unspoken rules that have to take place in order for there to be law and order and for there to be civility, right? You cannot thrive in an environment where your speech is taken away from you. One of the first things that happens in these, developing countries or these countries that's still going backwards, back into the past with the level of censorship, the first thing you do is you take somebody's voice away. So either we live in a society and on a planet where everyone should have the right to say their piece and not say it goes unchecked, but if someone's saying something with words, check them with words, right? If somebody's calling the shot or calling people to action to be violent, then yeah, we look at how do we neutralize that. Totally get it. But unless this dude was actually advocating for people to go out and act violent in the name of conservative politics, I don't think he deserved to lose his life. And unless you're the type of person that you don't have a social media account and somebody's telling you that I'm saying this out of my mouth, you don't even have in your lifestyle the desire to even turn on the TV and listen to stuff or turn on your phone and look at stuff and view stuff and look at content. If you're not even in the wave of even dealing with social media, then I guess you know what, you're a pure perfect person. God bless you. But for everyone else that consumes media to some degree and participates in creating content to some degree, there just has to be some line that's the underlying thread that's like, this is just how it has to be. Either everyone should have the ability to say whatever they have to say and have to deal with it, or everyone else has to shut the fuck up. It has to be one or the other. Right? It can't be in between. It can't be, only the people that are influential or the people that have money or the people that have prestige or the people that have power or expertise can talk. And everybody else, because you're just an average everyday person, you don't have the right to talk. Or you can't be like, hey, you know what? My voice is just as valuable and just as real as anyone else's voice. So there's no levels to this, right? The average person can get on here and just proclaim to be whatever and say, hey, I got degrees in nuclear physics, this, and that, and they're capping. And when it's time to talk to somebody that actually has walked that walk, now they want to be held in the same playing field. No, I understand that there's levels to this thing. But at the core of opening your mouth, moving your tongue, and allowing your vocal thrones to push up words out of your mouth, everyone should have the ability to say what they have to say verbally. And if it's something that is challengeable, be challenged verbally. But to have someone's life taken because they take a different or alternative view than you, like, that's just cowardly. And I don't understand why people just can't see that. Now, some people do see that. But what I'm saying, there's already these unapologetic little tweets and things that are like, oh well, let's not canonize him. Sure he got shot, but I'm not sure we can call this that. No, it's an assassination is what happened. When somebody is up on the stage, when somebody is delivering a speech or sharing a political set of ideologies, or they're explaining the frameworks and they're actually trying to get people to buy in to whatever it is that they're selling, and it's political and you get killed for it, that's an assassination, right? So I understand this concept that there's no such thing as freedom of speech, because the things that you say you have to be held accountable for. But I reject the notion that someone should say something out of their mouth that the consequence is that they get murdered. That's cowardly, right? Fight words with words, right? Fight hate with love, right? Fight lies with truth, right? Fight people's opinions with debate, and then you just let it all lie, right? That's where I come from. So as the days go by, and there's further developments, and there's more things that are going to come to the forefront. I'll be the first one to acknowledge I'm not going to follow this thing all the way through to whether or not there's a conviction or somebody goes to jail. I know they have a personal interest. The governor said it, but my point is that this is something that is inherently dangerous to one of the things that everybody on planet Earth has access to, right? Everyone has access to being able to communicate their ideas, their thoughts, their understanding, their experiences. And just because someone's ideas and experiences or thoughts and visions of the world around them is different than you, does not mean that they deserve to lose their life. Doesn't matter about social economic status, doesn't matter about race or ethnicity, doesn't matter about gender, it doesn't matter about sexual preference, it doesn't matter about any of that stuff. If someone says something that is adversarial to where you stand and what your platform is, challenge that with words. As long as he's talking or she's talking or they're talking or whoever it is talking with words, challenge them with words. But let's not lose sight of what took place today. The reality is that everybody lost today. Everybody. Because this can happen to anybody. It doesn't just register for people that are in the public eye or people that are of some sort of social stature or some place where people say, okay, they have followers, they have connection, they have emotion. No. When these things start happening in a society, watch out. So I just hope that there aren't any copycats. I hope that this is a one-off. It's been a while since somebody was publicly executed for something that they said politically on a stage here in America. It hasn't been the first time. But again, as a historian, my task with my students is to be able to give them clear-cut understandings that how things that happen in the past that don't get resolved, don't get talked about, don't get sorted out, sometimes tend to creep back into our present and into our future endeavors, right? A friend of mine said it looks like we're feeling like we're in the 1960s in 2025, and I don't have a problem with that. If the thought behind that is that this is a time for intellectual, for spiritual, for cultural revolutions here in this United States, and being able to change and pivot away from what the norm was. Even though old folks like me always talk about how society has changed and how these young folks are screwing everything up, I still fall back on this reality that it's their world. They inherited it from us. We didn't fix it to the degree in which we felt we did, and now it's their turn. Our time is up, right? And so I'll stay solid in the things that are my convictions, my morals, my political views and ideologies, but I still understand that someone white next to me has the opportunity to challenge that, reject that, to cause me to have to defend against that at any given point in time. And if I have time and I feel it necessary, I might do a little verbal dueling with them, but I shouldn't have to worry about whether or not I would be killed because of this. Right. And so I just wanted to put that out there because it clearly it's an annoying thing, but it's a saddening thing. It's a disappointing thing. It's a disheartening thing. And in order for this country to move in either direction, whether it's more conservative or it's more liberal, or it just tears down the middle and we keep having this hyper partisanship. I still would rather have that in a context where people don't lose their lives because of it, lose your job because of it, get canceled because of it, lose friends, have people step away and disavow themselves from you and your thoughts, have people scurry away and leave you if they feel like you're saying something that doesn't mesh well with where they're at in their life. All those things are fair game in this thing called the social contract, but we should not lose our life over words. And I'm going to leave you with that one.